Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe. I'm a Forbes contributor covering social entrepreneurship and impact investing. And our guest today is Alex Thaler, who is the co-CEO and founder of Stratifund. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Devin.
Alex, you're doing some really interesting things. I think you've carved out a unique spot for Stratifund in the crowdfunding world. And you're aggregating all of the deal data across all of the FINRA registered platforms or portals, and then you're also writing kind of analyst reports on each of the crowdfunding deals that we're seeing coming across. This is really kind of an exciting thing. Tell us more.
Yeah, well, thank you. So as we saw the launch of equity crowdfunding over the past few months, what we really saw is an investor having an incredible new opportunity, and that's to invest in startups. And that is such a different type of investment than the everyday investor is really used to. The everyday investor typically invests in mutual funds and stocks. Kind of a stock will go up 10%, down 10% a year on a typical year. Startups are a completely different ballgame. And as we saw the launch of equity crowdfunding and Title III crowdfunding a few weeks ago, as we were looking at this late last year, early this year, what we saw is an opportunity to really help educate the investor and to look at all the startups raising money and to really put out an opinion, an independent opinion, and say, let's look at the startup, let's see what we think, let's look at it on a set of factors and put out an objective report.
Interesting. Well, I think it's really an important process that there are some in this world who've argued against crowdfunding using the argument that, in essence, rich people are smarter, if only that the richness is evidence of their smarts. I absolutely reject that hypothesis as having no basis in fact, no good data to support it. And I think the SEC rules that have traditionally taken that view have no real foundation. On the other hand, because the SEC has prohibited ordinary investors from making investments in startups for the last 80 years, that ordinary investors aren't practiced in making a thoughtful review of a startup, and they need the kind of help you're offering. And so I'm excited. You've laid out for us today 5 tips that ordinary investors can use for making an evaluation of the deals that they find on crowdfunding sites. And again, we're talking about equity crowdfunding under Regulation Crowdfunding or Title III of the Jobs Act. We're not talking about what goes on Kickstarter and Indiegogo for the sake of the audience here. But your first tip was to look at the team. Why is the team such an important criteria? Why is that number one?
Well, the team is the one who gets up in the morning, day in and day out, works long hours, works to make the business a reality. And really the team is, arguably the most important factor. It's whether, what is a team's background? Have they started startups before? Do they have the right experiences? Have they worked in startups? Have they helped grow a business? Have they had success? And starting a startup is not an easy task for anyone, for even the best teams. There's incredible challenges that come up along the road, and really to have a team that, a strong team leading the charge is the first thing that we look at.
That's great. Now, your second tip was to look for a large growing industry. That seems a little more intuitive, but why is that an important criteria, and how do you evaluate it?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we really look at is a relevant industry. It's easy for a lot of companies to say that, restaurants are billions upon billions of dollars in the United States, or travel, or transportation, or tech. And really that's more or less irrelevant. What's relevant is what's the most relevant industry? Is it a hotel in a particular city? Then we need to look at that city. Is it a medical device that looks at a particular condition? Let's look at that condition. And it's really important to see what's the exact most relevant industry, and why the size of the industry important. Think about it like a pie, like a piece of pizza, and you're trying to go after a slice of pizza. I'd personally rather go after an extra large pizza, try to get a slice of that rather than a personal size, if I want to be full for dinner. And it's the exact same thing.
Yes, I have the exact same view of pizza consumption. So I'm with you on that, Alex. Now, your next point was to check the depth of the competition's pockets. Now, help us understand that.
Yeah, it makes an enormous difference who you're going up against. Are you going against, Fortune 20, Fortune 100 companies, Fortune 500 companies, or are you going against the corner store? And that makes a huge difference. An example that you mentioned in the article was Jet.com and how they compete with Amazon. And taking that, for example, obviously we all know Amazon has incredibly deep pockets, and Jet.com to compete has raised over 500 million to date. It's not an easy road. Compare that with a restaurant that just started up on the corner of this local street in your town. It's a much different dynamic. For you to get the word out, for you to market effectively, it's a complete different scale of investment. And when we talk about crowdfunding and we look at companies in Title III crowdfunding raising up to $1 million and Regulation A Plus raising up to $50 million, it's important to really understand who are you going up against, and will the amount of money that a company raises in this round really be enough to get them to grow effectively and to compete effectively in the marketplace. And $1 million is not going to get you very far to compete against Amazon.
Yeah, scary thought. And so as you point out, Jet.com raised $500 million, right, to compete with Amazon. And so yeah, it is scary when we see entrepreneurs tackle Amazon and things up. I'll never forget, I had an entrepreneur come to me before the iPod came out. I'm old, right? So I remember things you don't remember. But in the olden days, iPods only played music. And This guy came around and he said,
and they had the little spin wheel as well.
Yeah. And he came out and he said, I have an iPod competitor that will play video. And we said, well, Apple will obviously do that. And he said, oh, no. And he had 100 reasons why Apple would not do that. And we just said, dude, Apple's going to do that. And of course, like 6 weeks later, they did it. So it is scary to see people going up against the big boys head on, especially. So great point. Now, your number 4 point is to look for a company doing something unique. Again, this seems a little bit intuitive, but tell us your thinking about that.
Yeah, I mean, the question is really how differentiated is a company? And at the end of the day, every startup builds a product and they have to have consumers who are willing to pay for it. And the true question is, are you creating something different enough that people are going to pay for, that they're going to switch from their current habits and do something truly different? And there's a lot of better mousetraps out there. And as we look at companies, there's a few ways to measure that success. If you had a lot of success on Kickstarter, that's a sign that you're getting early adopters to truly care about what you're doing. If you've had pre-sales, if you've had early revenue, those are all solid signals that you're doing something that someone is willing to pay for.
Yeah, I hear you. Great points. So it isn't so much that they appear to be doing something unique or differentiated. It is that they can prove that they are with market data, right? With that Kickstarter campaign or some other sort of pre-sale.
Exactly.
I think that's a really important insight. Now, your final of the 5 points was to look at the numbers. And I'm an old finance guy, so I really, I like this point. Why do you think it's important to be looking at the numbers?
I guess at the end of the day, there's a certain valuation on each investment. There's certain numbers behind it, and stories can be painted that don't often match the numbers. And it's really important to look at the 4 things that we just talked about and say, do they really match? Do those 4 factors tie to the story? So the company says they can grow to a certain size. Do they have the plan to do it? Is the valuation where I'm currently investing? We've seen some of the regulation crowdfunding companies. The valuations are across the board, and some are kind of at market given where they are, and some are well ahead of market. And that's if you're investing far ahead of where the market's at, then you're it would be like buying a stock on the public market and paying, twice what the listing price is. It puts you at a disadvantage. Sure, the company can grow even further, but you just paid twice as much for it.
Yeah, you might give up 5 years of profit, 5 years of appreciation. So that's a great point. Well, Alex, I want to just get a couple of insights from you. Whenever I have a world changer on the show, I like to just tap into the thinking that goes behind that. clearly you've staked out some turf in the crowdfunding world that's going to make you a real icon over time. Who do you look up to as a role model?
One of my role models is Elon Musk, and he's done amazing things, revolutionized multiple industries. I've been following him for years and years, since, you know, even before the Roadster was out. And
yeah, he's only about 2 years older than you.
Yeah, exactly. But he's done amazing things. As we look at the 5 things we just talked about, I mean, he went after, you know, it's hard to imagine someone who's created a more differentiated product, and, you know, talk about something people are willing to pay for. I mean, I personally stood outside in the rain for hours to get on the wait list for the Model 3. So he's done some amazing things, and, you know, for the environment, for the industries that he's revolutionized. And, you know, as we talk about competition, he's gone up against, you know, his companies have gone up against incredibly well-funded competitors, and he's done a very good job. So definitely look up to him.
Now, in addition, I'm interested in, you know, I really get why helping ordinary investors make good investments is good for them. I'm curious to know why you felt personally responsible to help solve that problem.
Yeah, I mean, so as an investor for years, I haven't been able to invest in startup companies, and I've seen many kind of pop up around us, and it's something where there's always causes. Everyone has causes they want to support, causes they want to get behind, not just for the financial gain, but also to be able to support whatever it is they believe in. And, you know, I believe strongly that everyday investors should be able to do that, to invest in their dreams, to invest in the companies they believe in, and have a chance of the upside of that success. It's not a guarantee. Most startups fail, but it's something that I didn't believe most investors should be barred from doing. And on the flip side, companies, you know, raising capital is, you know, it's the lifeblood of a company. It's impossible to grow without the right amount of capital. And so this, as I looked at the equity crowdfunding industry months back, it just was an incredible opportunity, and there was this need of, you know, increased transparency. And, you know, as we look at it, we all want, you know, crowdfunding to be successful. We want success stories. You know, I'd like to see your articles in the coming months about the companies raising right now that do have success, and, you know, the companies that have the problems we talked about and are less than favorable. You know, none of us want to see bad stories in the news, and we all want to see the growth of the industry. So trying to help make that happen in any small way I can.
Well, it's exciting to see the progress you're making, and to see this nascent little industry begin to blossom. The last of these little thought questions I want to ask you, we ask all of our guests to offer up an impact hack, some tip or practice, habit, something we can do that would help us all do more good, have more impact on the world. What's your impact hack?
Mine is to always start with a strategy. Know where you're running before you take your first step.
That's a great suggestion. Great thing to remember. Always know where you're running before you take your first step. I love that. Love that. Well, Alex, there's one last question I want to ask you, and I know we have to be a little bit cautious about this, but I understand that you've launched your own crowdfunding campaign under Regulation CF. And I understand the SEC limits what you can say, but certainly they allow you to say you're doing that. Can you tell people where they can learn more about your crowdfunding offering?
Yeah, absolutely. Right now there's a link on our homepage that'll take you right to our raise to learn all the details, all the nitty-gritty. Yes, we have taken equity crowdfunding to heart. We believe strongly in it. We believe it's the right path for us as a company, and so we've taken it to heart and launched our own campaign.
Fantastic. Well, I congratulate you for that, and I'm excited to see what you can do with that. We will certainly be paying attention. Now, remind people of how they can follow you. So your website, Twitter. Where else can people find you? How can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. Our website, stratifund.com, facebook.com/stratifund. Our Twitter handle is also stratifund. So any or all of the above.
Fantastic. Well, again, Alex, we thank you very much for taking the time to be with us, and we wish you every success in helping to bring that fair, equal opportunity for ordinary investors to invest in good startups these days.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Devin, for having me. Really, really appreciate it.
All righty. It's been a pleasure. Let's do some good.
Thank you.